Hello and welcome to Turning Point Tactics, the competitive Kill Team 40k podcast and YouTube channel focused on giving you the strategies and tactics to seize initiative every turning point. I'm your host Ryan and I'm joined by the little knockoff Diet Cola beverage to my Fentimans Curiosity Cola. Connor, how you doing this evening?
I'm good, thanks Ryan. Obviously had a very busy weekend, didn't we, just now? Just got back from Warhammer World. What a blast! That was a brilliant tournament.
Absolutely incredible time. I had so much fun. Every single part of it, I think, was pretty much perfect. And I think I'll say this repeatedly. That is what I thought Warhammer Fest was going to be, and I was really, really impressed by all of it. You know, I reckon most of the people there had a absolute blast as well. Well, from the people I spoke to, anyway, everyone seemed to be really, really enjoying themselves. So I think this will be the focus of this podcast. Is going to be doing a little bit of a coverage of the event, and we'll talk through what made it good, if there's anything that you can think of to improve it, and then we'll just talk about our games. I think because there's a bit of learning because clearly we did, I think, pretty well. You know, I'm pretty happy with how we did, but we could have done better, and I want to talk about how we could have done better and some of the key points there. I think so. If that sounds good to you, Connor.
It is, yeah. And the only thing I can think of to improve my Warhammer World experience is they didn't seem to sell Fentimans Curiosity Cola behind the bar at Bugwins. That's the only thing I can think of. I think that was sensational.
They only sold Dandelion and Burdock, which caused some controversy. Because obviously we did meet Phil, didn't we? Tabletop Impulse.
Yeah.
And you suggested, hey, we should go get him a Fentimans Cola because that'd be a pretty good little.
It's funny, isn't it? Yeah,
a little tribute, you know, thanks for the shout out and a bit of a way of rewarding him. And yeah, it was quite a nice little gesture to be able to do that. But yeah, they didn't sell it. They only sold Dandelion and Burdock, so he dipped out and had to have that instead.
Sorry, Phil.
Sorry, Phil. I hope you like it. Probably hates it, but it's too polite to say no.
It's too polite to say no.
But yeah, so let's talk about the event. So it was a 60-player event hosted at Warhammer World in Nottingham. So fantastic venue. Ticket prices were £70, so £35 a day. Luckily for me, I guess, I bought mine right when they released, and they did a little bit of an admin mess up, and I only paid £35 for my ticket. So for me, it was an absolute bargain. But yeah, so it was a mixed format. They had open and ITD, and they did what I absolutely love. You know, they sort of copied Jason's idea from Sanctuary, where you have on each table a full open board and a full Into the Dark board. So that was really nice. And obviously, one of the really, really cool things, the open boards were laid out with our map pack, which was absolutely awesome to see, I think. So yeah, that was kind of the format of the event. It was six rounds of Swiss, with one undefeated, and a golden ticket award going to first place was what was told about anyway at the start. So yeah, anything you think I've missed there, Connor?
Did you mention it was an hour 45 per game? But there's plenty more time around that. But that was the
correct. Yeah, hour 45 per game. No chess clocks in force, nothing of that in the packet. I thought they were pretty good on judge support and that sort of stuff, and I never felt rushed. There was loads of space between each games table. They'd pre-marked the deployment zones. They'd set objective markers out on the table. With the exception, this is my only potential area of feedback that I found, is they had objective markers on the open board, but they didn't have objective markers on the Into the Dark boards. Wasn't an issue for me.
Lack of supply.
But yeah, I'm almost certain it was. I think if they could have done, they would have done. But and it wasn't an issue for me because I brought objective markers anyway.
Yeah, I had some too.
Yeah, but I guess if someone didn't have objective markers, then that could have been could have made it a little bit harder for them. But that I think is the only bit of negative. I say negative area for improvement that I can possibly think of, because the rest of the day, or the 2 days, was absolutely awesome. The event staff were fantastic as always. They're super engaging. The judges were always there. You know, for the painting events, they were there next to the cabinets, talking to
Yeah,
guys, engaging, talking about how you could paint better, all that sort of stuff with some of the models that they had painted. Like from registration through to the grand finale at the end when they're handing out awards, I thought the staff did an absolutely incredible job.
yeah.
And I know that they've given up their weekend to make that happen, and to like get people excited about the hobby. And I think they absolutely smashed it out of the park. So that was for me absolutely epic. So
I'm just reflecting on it now. Did we even deviate from a single time? And obviously, we got told the timings right at the start, and I think we adhered to each one of them, didn't we? There were no errors or pushbacks or anything. It was those were the times you could look at your lanyard
yeah,
and know where you needed to be exactly when you needed to be there. It's perfect.
and as well, like the way the format was, it was 4 games on day 1 and 2 games on day 2. Which initially I was a bit worried about. I was like, oh, does that mean that day 1's going to feel like an absolute slog and day 2's going to feel really short? But it really didn't feel too bad. And what it meant was that at the end of day 2, everyone was there for the awards. And it meant that there was a huge crowd to go and like cheer the winners, which I thought was really epic. And that's something that I think Fest missed a little bit was that celebration at the end, and it really had that celebration. So
Yeah.
I think it was absolutely epic. I would highly recommend that if anyone's considering going to an event at Warhammer World in future, definitely go. They are consistently improving every single time, and I'm sure that their events will only get better. Right, that they're so receptive to feedback, and they're such good staff there. I don't know what else to say. I think they've really shown just how good tournaments can be.
Smashed it, didn't they?
Yeah, absolutely smashed it, and it's so good as well because there was this like little period of negativity that I think people had about the game about a month or so ago. And then you look at all the faces coming out of that tournament, and it's interesting. Like in the WhatsApp groups I'm in, everyone is buzzing about Kill Team again, and I'm like, that is exactly what these events should do, right? It's like they should get people really excited and wanting to play more and wanting to sign up to the next tournament. And I think they've done that, which for me I just think is so cool. So absolutely phenomenal work to the guys at the events team. It was an amazing weekend. So I think it's probably worth us talking about our games now, and then we'll talk about at the end some of the really exciting stuff that came out, because there's a bit of that there was a big unexpected thing that was happened right into the event, which no one thought was going to happen. I definitely think it's worth us talking about that for a little bit, because I think
So
that's really
stay tuned,
exciting
everyone.
as well.
Listen through all the games, and then right at the end, you get to hear the juicy stuff.
The juicy goss. Because also in the games there is some learning, right? So if we just do this round by round, Connor, I think it's probably the best way of doing it.
That makes sense. Yeah, happy with that.
Yeah. Do you want to go first? So round 1, what was your match? What was your pairing?
You'll be familiar with my partner, my oppo. So game 1, I'm into Chris Francis from Not Skill Team. You've probably played him before, but he wasn't bringing Pathfinders this time. This time he had some. On the day I thought I was playing Kazakin, and I was playing Kazakin, but he's kit bashed some, and you might have seen them actually out because he's entered into the painting competition. They were, I think he said they were Ashlanders from Necromunda. He's converted them to look like Kazakin. Looked brilliant, nailed it.
You're going to see a theme here with the Not Skill Team group with their kit bashing and painting skills. It's pretty outrageous.
It was sensational, wasn't it? So we're if you're following along, if you've got the maps in front of you, we're playing on Nakmund, and it's flank, and we're playing loot. Everyone's playing loot on the first game. I've chosen to run Legionary, and in this instance, I'm running Nurgle Legionary. I think I run Nurgle in every single game, actually. It was an exceptionally violent game. So even though I was Nurgle, corner proved as always. That's how we roll. But I do owe Chris an apology here, and we discussed it on the day, but I'll put a formal apology out as well here. So what I did, I made a mistake here. So I'm obviously, we play a lot of Vertigus, and you got the crates, and we're playing Nakman though, and I jumped up on a bit and used it as a vantage point to shoot 2 of his guys because I had malicious volleys. Can't do that because it's not a vantage point because we're not playing Vertigus, we're playing Nakman. So apologies, and that actually it did really impact the game because it killed 2 guys that could have tapped an objective for him. So probably put him on the back foot straight away. So
just for clarity, it wasn't a crate; it was a fuel pump laid on its side, right?
Correct. That's what it was. And obviously, I'm just used to looking at that and thinking crate from Vertigus, but we are not on Vertigus, idiot. We're playing Nachman, so obviously it's not a vantage point. So there's that's my bad, my error, and I do apologise for that. But we still had an absolutely excellent game. He's such a fun guy to play against. Like it was just, I think we're laughing the whole way through it and enjoying it. And we both got some incredible dice rolls. Both got some very unfortunate dice rolls. I was very impressed with his. I'm never too sure about the elite points, but he was using them to full effect and getting a lot of crits through, which obviously Nurgle do not enjoy their crits. So he was, like I said, it was an exceptionally violent game. He was slaying as much as me as I was slaying as much of him. But in the end, I just tipped the win. I got 16-10. I managed to secure 6 points of my attack ops. I went rout, eliminate guards, and rob and ransack in the end. I did do. There was one talking about bad dice earlier. Absolute misplay by me. I charged my anointed, who's on 2 wounds, into his full health medic. God knows why. I don't know why I did this. So I go in, roll the dice. I hit him for 5, and he hits me for. I think he hit me for 4. He got a crit back, or he got enough crits that I couldn't sort it out. Oh yeah, because he's got his elite points, he can just do that. So I've taken 4 wounds when he's on 2. But because Feel No Pain, everyone hates it apart from me. I managed to shake off 3, so he actually took 1 wound from his 2 wounds and still alive and killed him. So, yeah. A second apology there, Chris, for that outrageous dice rolling. But I had a brilliant game with Chris. It was a good laugh.
Well, nice. Sounds like it was a good start to the tournament. I actually had an equally good start to the tournament. I played a guy called James with his Corsairs, and he's actually from the Leicester group, so a lot of the Knots guys have played with him and against him previously, but I've missed that. I didn't go to that event. So he was bringing his Corsairs, and we were, so obviously, as Connor said, we're playing loot, and I was on the GW Verticus terrain that they had made, which I think we're going to add to the version 2 of the map pack. So we're going to keep the map pack the same, but just add the Verticus maps that Games Workshop have made, and that will become version 3. And then if you have Verticus, away you go. If you don't have it, then don't worry about it. But I personally don't have any Vertigus, so it was pretty new to me. We played it at Games Workshop before at Warhammer World, so I was familiar with the terrain as such, but the layouts were brand new, and I thought they did a pretty good job with it actually. So anyway, we played loot, and I am always a bit scared about playing Corsairs on loot because they can just they just pick up points so quickly. But so my sort of game plan was, all right, well, fine, I'm going to try and use my GA2 where I can to mean that I don't take too many losses early on. And if I can mitigate that, then it should be okay, and I should be able to sort of consistently score. James went straight in with a quite large Alpha Strike on his Shade Runner, so taking Infiltrate, dashing forwards at the start of the game with Plunderers, and then doing a move dash and throwing a plasma grenade into my 2 gunners and I think it was a random armsman. So I was like, oh, okay, pretty big start to the game. But I think statistically, like, it's so unlikely that actually nets any kills, and it didn't, because the first guy's in cover, the next 2, the 2 gunners, were splashed onto by the grenade. But even if you get 2 crits, like, that's only 8 damage, and they got 9 wounds. And so I think one of them, it did 3 damage. Another person, it did 6 damage, and then the other person, it did 8 damage or something. And I think he rolled pretty well with it, but it was, if anything, I think slightly above average. But the chance of killing against people who have rerolls against blast and all that sort of stuff wasn't too likely. So that being said, the Shade Runner actually lived because I was prioritizing other threats and trying to focus on removing some other key models before I came back to the Shade Runner and Turning Point 2. So, but the game went fine, So I ran security on that one and went for, because it was a corner deployment. Escort Operative was actually fairly easy to try and do with my leader. And then I managed to win 21-17. So pretty happy with how that game went. It was a good start to the tournament. James was a fantastic opponent, really fun to play against, a really nice guy. I think he was still learning a lot of the, the competitive level sort of like interactions and how you can really min max points and that sort of stuff. But he was doing a great job with his Corsairs to score points early and really keep me playing for those VP where I could. So I was pretty happy at the end of that game to come away with the win. And then we're into round 2, Connor. Who did you face up against round 2?
Round 2, I was jumping into a guy called Owen Jackson, and I spoke to him and I found out that he'd actually played our dad the game before and his Nurgle legionaries. So we decided I was there to try and avenge my father and restore, because dad lost as well. So I was going to restore some honor to the clan. That's what we decided. Also, another funny point. Owen, so we say about tournaments, go to a tournament and then you actually get to meet a variety of teams and see a whole lot of different styles and whatnot when you go there. Owen actually ended up playing on the first day 4 Nurgle legionaries. That was all his games there. So that was the variety that Owen got to see. Another funny thing that happened is so Owen's chosen Hive Fleet, which I think is a strong choice, and his models look great actually. He didn't have enough parts, I think, so he kit bashed one of his warriors out of like a I think he said it was a Hive Guard and some power swords. They all look really good. He put like blood effects on them as well. And he's telling, I'm not really that au fait with Hive Fleet. I don't play them that much, so he's talking me through his stuff, and he's saying my heavy gunners armed with the venom cannon. He's reading out the stats, and I think it's like 5 attacks, 5/6 AP1 or something like that. It was something. I'm like, wow, that sounds pretty scary. And he's like, yeah, don't be, actually. it's never done anything. It's abysmal. The Devourer is actually what happens. And in the game, when we played it, sure enough, whenever he fired that venom cannon off, it did nothing. I've never seen dice be so swingy, but it hits on a 4. I guess that's one of the problems with it. But I just love that he caveated it like, don't worry, it will be rubbish. But a brilliant game with Owen. We again full of laughs and really enjoyed it. It was good fun. One interesting thing that happened is talking about swingy dice. I have chainsawed Icon Bearer. Oh, by the way, apologies. We're playing Capture. It's ITD now, and this is the Channels map. So I moved it up to the hatchway to hatchway fight a Gene Stealer, thinking it'd just be a cheeky way to get a kill. And he hits on a 3+ with his chainsword, 5 attacks, and I think I hit once. And I thought, oh my god! And he's got like Rending. I can't remember what he's got. A lot of rerolls and a lot of attacks, and I'm like, he's going to absolutely kill my guy here. I've just thrown away my Icon Bearer. So I had to use 2 rerolls to actually get through the damage needed to make sure I killed him, because I got a crit there, which was a bit frustrating. But I'm glad I did. We had a game played. I think my strategy was to focus on the Gene Stealers first, because it was Capture. He had to look after the objectives. I think he'd struggle. In my head, he would struggle if he lost his Gene Stealers. So I took out them, and then he's just left with his warriors, which are very killy. You know, they're kind of like Custodes, really, but you can't
so
tap the
many
objective.
wounds.
Yeah, precisely. Yeah, you can't kill me and tap the objective. Or at least you're going to struggle if you do that. So that was the strategy, and it did pay off in the end. I won that one 22-13. And I dropped attack up there. It's one of those funny ones. I was actually too efficient on the killing. So I dropped one on eliminate guards, because once he'd like captured it, then he wasn't moving back on, and that's how it goes. But you know, I certainly had a really fun game with Owen, and I'll skip ahead to the trophies. I think a lot of people did, because I'm pretty sure he came, I want to say, second for like most fun player. They had like most fun player awards.
No, he won most sporting, didn't he?
Most sporting, correct? Yes. So a lot of people also agreed that Owen was a fun game to play. So fair play to him. But that was game 2. How'd your game 2 go?
Well, I was going to say, because basically everyone gets to vote for their favourite opponent going through, and I assume both you and Dad voted for Owen, as well as
I certainly did, yeah, but I'm not sure about Dad.
As well as a bunch of other people, I'm sure. And I think as a result, he ended up scoring really, really well. Getting most sporting. So, and again, as we said in the past, I think that's probably one of the best awards you can get on those events.
For sure.
With basically people saying, I want to play against you again, is, in my opinion, really, really cool. So anyway, my round 2 was against Lazarast, who's from the Kill Team Mercenarios. I don't know how to say it in Spanish. Kill Team Mercenaries, but in
Mercenarios?
Spanish. Like, I'm going to butcher it, whatever I do. I'm really, really sorry because I know he says listen to this. Yeah, but so, and obviously that's the podcast that has both Ace and Lazarus on it, and they were part of their team together, and they came over to Warhammer World, and so he was running his Warp Coven. So this is a really interesting game, and I want to talk about it a little bit more because I think there's some good learning to come out of it. So firstly, let's get out there. Like, I lost, and it wasn't like a close loss. It was like a absolute bloodbath. Probably one of my worst games that I've had in a very long time. Loss.
You almost quit the tournament there and then, didn't you? I think.
No. What? No, absolutely not. Because it was such a fun game, right? Like, I loved it, and it's because he's such a great opponent. So no, I didn't quit the tournament. I had a really fun time, but I had a really bad game, right? Like, so it was. And I want to talk about why, because I think that's where we can get some really good learning. Because not did that game just cost me it cost me the ability to win the tournament, but also I lost so many secondaries in that game that it cost me my placement. So I went from being able to potentially get like second or third, whatever, to not being able to really be in contention because I only got one tack up. And for context, like, every other game I maxed apart from one game where I got 5. So, it was really like dominating performance from the Warp Coven, and I want to talk about it because I think it's useful. So there's a few things that I want to bring out. One is Warp Coven are not particularly popular at the moment, so you don't see them, right? And therefore, it was one of those things where he said, "I'm playing Warp Coven," and I go, "I have not played against Warp Coven, thought about Warp Coven since I think." I last played him when it was like Guy Barton and I was running Corsairs back when Nachman first came out, right? So we're talking about a year ago that I've even like really considered it. And so I was a bit surprised to see them. And then my first thought was going to be, well, probably he'll go rubric heavy, right? Like, most people run rubrics. That's what I'm going to be. So I ended up taking a plasma gun and a melter gun. And I looking back now, I realized that was really not the option. And actually understanding that Warp Coven on ITD in particular and on capture, he went with 6 angles. So immediately I was throwing with my kill team selection. I didn't really have the right tools, I don't think, and that's going to factor in a second when I talk about why that's so important. And not just that, but I was immediately like, I don't really understand why he's done this. I knew roughly some of the things that they could do, but I was about to see like a Warp Coven masterclass, I think. And so what happened was he did a fantastic job moving his Zangors forwards, right? So they went and blocked every key doorway effectively, and he had the option for GA2 on each of them at the start of the turn, and he positioned really well on his threat ranging, so he was just in melee range, and able to push forward if he needed to. But I wouldn't be able to do anything that I needed to back, So he also set up the possibility for an Alpha Strike turn 1 with his sorcerers on both flanks, because he with his extra movement or with the pregame dash can reach the door, open it, and fire a fireball into your back lines turn 1 if he takes initiative. And so he set up this. It was like a very choreographed sort of setup, like. Everything was planned out. He knew exactly what he was doing, which was really awesome to see. But the level of thought detail went slightly beyond that, to be honest. So he then went and had the option. So because he had blocked the doorways with Zangors, effectively at the end of turning point 1, but he had the ability to have his guy who can teleport able to move past his Zangors with a teleport option, because you don't need to be able to get over the bases. You just reposition right within 6. And also he had the guy with fly on the other flank, so he could fly over his angles and then you use that as well. So he had a really good screening ability with his angles, and that GA2 to be able to then burst through and do a whole lot of damage. So at the end of turning point 1, I sort of set myself up for like if I win initiative, I will seal off a door, stop the Zangors coming through, and get a double kill with a blitz demo charge. And that was my sort of like main threat, but I was struggling to find other ways of actually achieving threats elsewhere. And so turn one, obviously, he took initiative and he fired a fireball into my backlines. I had spread out though. I had predicted that alpha strike, so he was only able to hit one person. But he did some damage to my hatch cutter, which then reduced him to 4 wounds remaining, which is going to become important. So then, cool. We've set up. We're ready for turning point 2. I spent quite a lot of my CP, and then he wins initiative. So my hatch cutter is by the hatch, ready to seal it, and my demo guy is in the open. And so this is where like the game. This is the first part of the downfall of my game, if that makes sense. I did quite a good job on the right flank, denying him a primary on turn 1 because I had my cat marking the objective and I had the plasma gun ready to swing out, so he didn't feel safe being able to do that. And I had the attack order there as well. So anyway, he wins initiative. I'm in a position now where I'm like, well, where do I put my attack order? Do I put it with my plasma gun where I need that reliability to be able to hold down that right flank and stop them from pushing onto that objective? Do I put it on the guys who are about to be attacked in melee, or do I put it in the center for my counterpunch with my armsman? And this is my first point on like kill team selection, right? So looking back on it, I definitely could have had a las volley on that right hand flank, and had a Zangor moved onto that objective, a las volley would have done exactly what it needed to do to kill a Zangor. And if a sorcerer moved onto that objective, well, the las volley is still going to put out the reliable damage that I need to then do it in 2 shots, because realistically he has an invulnerable save, he's going to be cover, he's got a turn of crit to a reg, all that sort of stuff. Like he has ways to mitigate that damage. And a plasma gun with the attack order, even with the attack order, isn't going to be, like, statistically isn't going to do what it needs to do. So I had to put the attack order. Well, I had the attack order with my plasma gun. I think that was actually the wrong play in that instance. But had I had a better kill team selection, then the plasma gun wouldn't have needed it in the first place, and I could have had it where I needed it. So first activation, he GA2s some Zangors. He charges a Zangor in against my hatch cutter to kill him in melee. And because I only had 4 wounds remaining, even with the -1 damage down to minimum of 3, he hits me once. I hit him once, he hits me again, and I'm dead. Whereas had I had been on full health, then I would have lived there. But the damage mitigation wasn't sufficient because he had selected the correct target in the first turn to weaken with chip damage to guarantee that kill on the next turn, which is really smart. Then through comes the second Zangor and into my Grenadier. I think I rolled a single hit. He parries it and he kills me with his 3 hits with the Relentless. So this is the next part I want to talk about. All of his melee options had Relentless or had 5 attacks. So his one of his sorcerers had 5 attacks with the flame pistol, but everyone else had Relentless. So he was, every time he was rolling dice, he had a reroll there to just to massively increase that reliability. I think that was really, really effective at being able to, do what he wanted to be able to do. So then conversely, I then go for my counterpunch. So my 2 GA2 guys move into the center to try and shotgun 2 of his Zangors. Now, my idea here isn't to kill them. A kill would be nice, but like if I can get 6 damage through, then they become 1 shot to a hatchet. And at that point, it's like, that's really good, because if they charge me, they hit me once, but I kill them, right? And that then stops them doing what they want to do in the middle, and I can go for my game plan, which is central control, secure center line, that sort of stuff. So I was like, okay, and bear in mind, this is also where his recover item was. So I was like, this synergy works well. I should be able to kill or wound 2 Zangors, and I'll dominate the center point. My first guy goes in, he gets a 6 and 3 2s, and I'm like, cool, no chance for an auto retain there. He rolls his saves, gets a crit save, takes no damage. My GA2 next guy goes in, exactly the same thing. I think I got a regular hit actually, sorry, and 3 misses. So again, I'm like, cool, because of that, my close assault hasn't procced, and my ability to do damage has ended. And it's really interesting because I think those 2 activations at the start of Turning Point 2 sealed the game. It was like at that point, it's kind of done, and I'm scrambling to try and get back some points, because as a result, he dual charges those two. He kills one. He stays in combat with the second. I then think I can make up with this with my axe jack, because my axe jack can now charge and get damage against both of them with reap, and I get, unfortunately, a single hit, no crits, no auto retains. So my axe jack dies, and so like it was this thing of like, had my attack order been in that central room, I could have re-rolled all of those fails, and suddenly I was in a massive chance of achieving what I needed to do. Right, like my game plan was central control and secure center line. I didn't have re-rolls in the center, right? So like that was always an inherent risk that I was bringing, and I think that's probably where it went wrong for me. And the reason why I didn't do that came to kill team selection and my attack order placement, which is why it's going to go that way. So this is the thing: like it would be so easy for me to say, "Oh, Lazarus rolled well, I rolled badly, I lost." That is not the case, right? Like I made a whole bunch of decisions which resulted in bad outcomes, and Lazarus made a whole bunch of decisions that resulted in good outcomes. And it was the decisions that made that game, and it was a fantastic game, and he played really, really well, and I had great fun. I learned a bunch from it, and this is my point. Is I think you have to try and find the learning in these things, and that's what I learned from it. So I was like, actually, in future against Horde teams, I can use guard and a cat with a las volley, and I can get relentless hitting on fives to guard a point. I think that would have been a smart idea. Any comeback on that, Connor?
Just listening to what you said then, and you said, tongue in cheek, Lazarus rolled well. I know you didn't mean it, but it's tongue in cheek. But again, just thinking about that one step further, did he roll well because he set up so much relentless, so much seats as an extra dice rolling? We say guns don't kill people, guns of rerolls do. And actually, because I play Lazarus later on, he said something similar to me without realizing that he thinks reliability is king. Did he try and make it so that he rolled well? That's
100%. It was the rerolls, right? It's like and having them where he needed them, and knowing when he was going to do it, and using, and because for instance, like they can select a target and get relentless against it, and then when they charge a melee, they have relentless, and so every time I think Lazarus activated, he killed two models, like in Temple 2, and it was and I don't know, like. I don't know what the odds are, whatever. Like, I'm not going to get into that, but like, it was that combination of me not having reliability where I needed it, and him having that reliability where he needed it because of his kill team selection and build resulted in that outcome. So it was a really great game, and I think I've learned quite a lot from it, and hopefully I can take that into future games going forward. So thank you very much, Lazarus, for the game. I really, really appreciated it, and I look forward to a rematch at some point, hopefully.
Awesome stuff. Game 3. So, jump into my game 3 then. This time we're rolling into Secure, and it's back to open board. I'm on Nackmund again, and I'm playing another guy you might recognise. Well, I'm playing Paolo Marini, and he's got his gorgeous Intercessor Space Wolves. Don't know if you've seen them, but again, he's another brilliant artist, but this time from the London scene. I felt going into this was going to be close because we're both elites. We're a similar sort of side, and whenever I've played you and your intercessors, it's been a coin toss, frankly. 50% win rate either way, so I didn't really know what to make of this. The only play I can think of where I tried to make something happen is I deliberately baited out my leader, but my leader had the Grizzly Trophy to try and reduce that damage mitigation, just so I could then swing the plasma gun out to try and get a kill turn 1 as opposed to chip damage on my leader turn 1, and then be 6 men into 5 men turn 2. That's the only thing that I tried, and it did pay off, but this was such a close game when I was playing him. So we both also chose similar tac ops. We both also thinking about how the game was going to go. We both chose Headhunter. I won the initiative turn 2 after managing to bait out and get a kill. So I thought, brilliant, I'm going to go and kill his leader now. And I did the classic AP2 plasma pistol with my aspiring champ. And I'm also going to use Malignant Aura to take away defense dice. It's now basically AP3. And I'm going to put 20 damage on you and kill your leaders straight away, and there's nothing you can really do about that. So I was feeling pretty confident I was going, and he was also eliminate target as well, 3 points up in turn 2. But man, Paolo brought the most loaded cracks I've seen in my life. I think every single crack grenade, in fact, he had the gunner up on that big tower just slaying from up there. I think every single one did a minimum of 3 crits going through with all of his crack grenades. I've never seen anything like it. It was sensational stuff. So he absolutely blew apart my leader, even though the leader's got the Grizzly trophy, and blew away a few models as well. So it was very much tit for tat, and I think I just sort of swung it towards the end. And again, there's also another classic example, I think, of the Anointed feeling no pain and putting through all those damage, and the Anointed just shakes it off with 5s and 6s, which can really throw. I think at the end, there's another game where he was left with 1 wound and still able to run around and be a menace. But that game finished up 23-12 to me, the win there, and I managed to pick up 6 points on my tack ops. How did you get on?
Yes, I played against Triss, and she had some Black Temper intercession squad, so a little bit of personal bias, as they're my sort of like favourite chapter. I thought they were really, really cool, and Triss was amazing to play against again. So I was playing on Nakmund, and it was an interesting one because, you know, I've played this matchup the other way, if that made sense, and I was very much aware of just how dangerous the bolters could be. And so I was interested to see how it would play out, and I managed to get the win. And I think one of the things that I took from it is that I think normally people with breaches play against elites, they end up playing seek and destroy. I just don't find it reliable enough. So you can move off objectives quite easily, and then you can deny me eliminate guards. Keeping a Robin Ransack target alive is actually really hard to do. And like trying to get into their half just it sounds like you're just going to die. So it was an interesting one. So I sort of played for, again, I actually went security on this, and played into the middle. I thought I had the best chance of trying to maximize tack-up points by doing so. And it went okay for me. So I was able to do most of my strats. And you talk about, you know, absolute Hail Mary crack grenades. That did come in for me as well. I got hit by a 3 crit, 1 hit crack, and I was like, oh no. I guess my leader, who's braced for impact or braced for counterattack, is still very much dead. Because normally it takes the 4-5 down to 3-4, and he's got 9 wounds and just doesn't care. So yeah, sure, you hit me with 2 crits to save 1, whatever. It's like, no, if you hit me with 3 crits and a hit, that's going to do it. So yeah, absolutely nuked my leader. So yeah, that was pretty cool. But I sort of did the standard, you know, setting up multiple synergies with the blitz option in one place, to try and get some guaranteed kills, taking both the AP weapons, and it was a really, really fun game, and you know, Triss seemed to be really enjoying herself as well, talking about, you know, how much fun she's having playing a new team, because she had previously been playing Chaos Cults, but she had picked up in session specifically for this tournament, and it was just epic fun. You know, it was one of those really good classic fun games, and it was close the whole way through, because that's my thing I like about elites is you can never take your foot off the gas against elites, right? Like you have to always be watching for it, because the bounce back is there the whole way. And it was close. So it ends up 16-20. So, you know, only a few points in it, but those differential points were all in the last turn. So it was epic fun. I really, really enjoyed it. And a successful round 3 going into round 4.
Nice. I talked to Triss a few times as well throughout the day. So you just seem like one of those classic friendly people that you meet at these tournaments, and also equally having lots of fun games. So my game 4 then, going into game 4, was against Mateusz Mikołajczyk. I hope I pronounced that correctly, Mateusz. If I haven't, I apologise. I did try. So this time we're back into ITD. playing on Junction. This is loot this time. I lost this game. This was a very intense, very competitive game. I think Mateus is the number one player in Poland, and it felt like it. He knew what he was doing. He knew he was thinking about obscurity. He knew where to position. He knew what threats. He knew my team very well. He's played a lot against Nurgle. If I had to say one thing, why did I lose this game? It's because I didn't know Inquisition. I think that's what I put it down to. So there are a few like tricks and stuff that I just didn't think about. So I've forgotten some of the models, but there's that girl that's got the 5+ Feel No Pain, which obviously throws a lot of maths out. Yeah, that throws a lot of like maths out when you're in combat with the chainsword. So 5+ Feel No Pain is fine when it's my guy, but if you've got it, it's trash. I hate it.
And she hits on death as well. So you're pretty much
that
guaranteed
also
to
caught
take
me
at
out
least 10
as well.
damage.
Yeah, because it's 6 damage on a crit, and I've only got 12 wounds.
Yeah.
So yeah, just slaps me silly with that. There were just a few things like that. What else did they have? I can't remember. There's a few other like synergies that I just hadn't been exposed to before and caught me off guard.
Pistolero using the Eye of the Emperor to ignore weapon
4-inch.
modifiers.
So that managed to bypass, I think, the Grizzly Trophy. Ignore that. Again, throwing
And
the
your
mass that I
mutagenic
put up on my
flesh.
head. And the mutagenic flesh, of course, yeah. Just tricks that, like I said, I hadn't been exposed to before. And so it's a bit of a learning curve. We talk a lot about, if you want to win, you absolutely have to know your team inside and out, but you got to know the team of your opponent. Otherwise, it's a 50-50, and I did not know Inquisition well enough. But it's brought my play up, and I've learned quite a bit. One of the things we're discussing the debriefs, myself and Mateus, he actually doesn't rate Nurgle now, particularly into Inquisition. He is a fan of Tzeentch and Khorne, which is absolutely not something I'd even considered. But some of his reasoning was quite interesting. So there's a lot of APL modifiers you can do with Tzeentch. Obviously,
There's one, right? There's the attack ploy.
But it's something that Nurgle don't have access to. So on Into the Dark, you can now start opening doors and getting new lines of sight. Against Inquisition, who've got quite a bit of AP, and other teams have got AP, you've also got the invulnerable saves, and if you get a crit save, then you can gain another dice. So you're also quite hardy in that respect. It's an interesting idea. It's something I'll confess, I've not actually explored it. I don't know. But I think I'll definitely think about it now, because he mentioned it, and just have a think about that stance. I've not quite decided if it's good all round or if it's good into Inquisition. Do you know what I mean? But it's
I think they're a team that
about.
can bring quite a lot of AP, quite a lot of reliable AP.
Yes.
Well, I say reliable AP, that's not true. But they can bring quite a lot of AP. And I think Kazakin as well, them being in the meta now, is again, that is reliable AP. So I can see the argument. But, the other thing would be, let's take Kazkin, for example. Like Nurgle, you can auto-retain a crit, right? Or turn it, save into a crit. And they're like, Kazkin are really good at making a single crit. So the problem I have with the invuns is it is swingy. But you can you can turn a crack grenade into something you don't really care about as Nurgle, right? Like just by doing -1 damage, and then you get the crit anyway. But you can't do that with Tzeentch. So I don't know. Like it helps you out versus like the Melter and the Plasma, but I think you're almost better off just saying, well, those guys are dead anyway. Like, and
he'd give me food for thought. I'll put it that way. It's
for sure. And it's interesting because, like, for instance, I really like the idea of having Sinesh, so you can have it against Beastmen, you can have it against Galapox, you can have it against Chaos Colts. I really like that, and the tech that you can have there, and against those melee teams. But conversely, I also like the idea of having Khorne against certain Horde teams and like Harlequins and that sort of stuff, and the abilities you can do with that. I like Nurgle against most teams, and it's a tough one because like Legionary are the one team in a place where you can go, actually, there's an argument for all 4 marks, and that's kind of good for the internal balance, right? It's like
it's true.
Each one has a place. So I don't think you're ever going to be wrong for taking it, but as long as you've really thought about it and what you experience in your meta, I think that's fine. But yeah, I think the majority of the durable models that you have are better, are more durable with the -1 damage than they are with an invuln. But yeah, with the, I guess, the exception of like melter guns, but maybe against the melter guns, and it'll ruin certain breaches' ability to like just blitz kill you.
It's interesting, isn't it? I think, like I said, it's something I'd not really even reflected on, and maybe it's worth just having a look and thinking, is there something to that? What could I think up? But yeah, it was a good game against Mateus. I brought my level up, and like I said, I did lose. It was 14-19 in the end. I picked up 5 of my tac ops. I dropped 1 on Executioner. I think it's because we were playing loot, and it was a long board on ITD. I wasn't sure about routes. I picked up Executioner. Funnily enough, I think if I'd gone for Headhunter, I would have picked up that additional point. But still 1 point. I lost by 5 in the end. So first loss of the day. Some end of day 1, I'm 3-1, which actually I was hoping to get 3 wins. That was my tournament win condition, and I'd achieved that. So now I can relax and enjoy day 2. But how did your game 4 go?
Yeah, so I played against Mr. Initiative himself, Stefan Hadley. So Stefan, I played Stefan like I want to say 3 or 4 times now. I don't think he's ever had an initiative. Like it is absolutely ridiculous. At this point, it's ridiculous, right? So he was running his novitiates, which were actually. Did you see the Skaven initiates? The little
they were up, and they put like resin and stuff on the base, hadn't they? So it was like
they're incredible. They look so cool. But he'd instantly brought both, right? So he'd brought all the standard novitiate models and his kit bash Skaven. Just so if anyone said, "Oh no, I don't want to play against the kit bash. I'd rather be boring and play against normal models."
That's the strongest hobby flex I've seen in my life.
No, I think he borrowed them off someone else, to be fair. But yeah, he was worried about someone like being annoyed about it. So cover both bases. But so yeah, this game I think should have been significantly closer, but just the initiatives every turn absolutely screwed him. And it was like, I mean, so I think first turn he rolled like turning point 2 he rolled like a 3 and I rolled a 4 or something like that, right? So it wasn't anything particularly ridiculous, a bit annoying, fine. Turning point 3 he rolls a 5, and obviously he didn't have initiative last turn, so the only thing that I can roll is a 6 to take it, right? And I roll a 6, and then turning point 4 I'm like, I'll roll first. Yeah. I said to him before the roll, I feel really bad if you don't get this. I rolled a 2, right? I'm like, this is it.
Just give him initiative. You've rolled a 2.
Anything but a 1, right? Like anything but a 1, he's got it. He rolled a 1. So like, it was one of those things where we're both at that point. We're both just laughing because the game was like ridiculous. And he played fine. Like he didn't, I don't think, do anything particularly, outrageous here or there. And we did talk through a few potentially better moves, but like it was just one of those things where it was just like, yep, cool. Like it's flamers as well. So like hits on 2s, just rolled like 3 1s, like, and he had the auto chastiser, and then re-rolled 2 of them into hit, but still 1 of them into a miss. Just that kind of thing. It was just
like some loaded leadership dice for people on the board.
He bought the wrong ones. You know how people in 40k get the ones that roll low? He got the wrong dice. But yeah, Jesus, it was so bad. Just from the initiative point of view, we were laughing about it though. So hopefully next time I play against him, he'll get some initiative. I said he's going to have to start playing Kazakin or Pathfinders and just worthy cause, just something so he actually has a chance to have that initiative. But yeah, it was a great game. Final score 22-13 to Breaches. As I said, I think the actual final score would have been much closer. I think he would have got more of his secondaries because there was an opportunity for him to like get courier and to get surge forwards and all that sort of stuff, which he was denied because I was able to kill those models before they could clear the way, if that makes sense. It wouldn't have impacted my score, but it would have brought his score up. And so what looks like it was a significant win was actually would have been far, far closer. But again, it was a really fun game. Great opponent as always, fantastically painted and kit bash models. And that brought an end to round 4, which ended the first day. So we're both 3-1, yourself and I, which is nice. Because I think I sort of set myself a stretched goal of 5-1, so I was still on target for it. And obviously you had set yourself like a stretch goal of 4-2, which was awesome. So we were both heading in the right direction, and had a really really good fun round 4. That brings us to the end of that day 1. Connor, do you want to quickly just run through how people could do some subscriber support? You know, if they're listening to this and they're going, "Oh, that's really really cool. Sounds like you guys had fun," and maybe they want to help get us to try and get the funds to get to a few more tournaments and get around the country a bit more.
Yeah, of course. So maybe you're sat at home thinking, wow, these tournaments sound like an absolute riot. How can I get amongst that? Well, Turning Point Tactics, we've got a tournament coming up around, I want to say 25th, 26th of November, Ryan, is that correct?
That is correct, at Dark Sphere in London.
Dark Sphere in London. So get your name in that, get amongst these tournaments, meet some of these faces that we're talking about here. You'll have an absolute blast. Get your name down. But additionally, another way you could directly support the podcast is by joining our Patreon. It'll cost you £3 a month. So what does that? Well, that gets us a pot of paint. Ryan and I, spoiler alert, we've now decided hobby is cool. We'll explain why in a minute. But well, Ryan, I always thought hobby was cool. Ryan now suddenly thinks hobby is really cool in a competitive way, and he's going to start competitively painting models. We'll touch on that in a bit. But that £3. What does that £3 get you? Well, that will get you early access to all of our videos, as well as access to our members-only Discord, where we've got memes, we've got some of these hobby images that we've been talking about here with these beautiful models on. We've got a really cool community that will answer questions and discuss kill team with you. It'll also give you access to our priority Q&A that we go through every now and again, as well as some exclusive Patreon-only bits on there as well, like bat reps and stuff like that. The other way you could do it is just by liking and subscribing the YouTube video and sharing that amongst your friends to get more people to do it. I think we're at 1.5 thousand subscribers now, Ryan. So the community is growing. We love to see it, but we want to build and build and build. So share this amongst your friends and let them know about Kill Team. And then lastly, maybe you have seen some of the models that we're talking about, and you've been inspired to start doing hobby yourself. Well, if you buy those models through Element Games, if you're in the UK, not only will you get 15% off, but if you buy it with our affiliate link in the description below, then that's one way to support the podcast. But what if you're not in the UK? What if you're in the USA? Well, we've got you covered too now. So if you buy through Noble Knight Games, who are also one of these companies that will give you a discount, then if you use our affiliate link for Noble Knight Games in the description below, then that's another way you could support the podcast if you're in the USA.
Awesome stuff. And one thing to say about the Patreon priority questions, so what people will probably see, they've probably seen it before this actually, is we're releasing like segments that come out on YouTube, and they're about 10 minutes, like give or take a couple of minutes here and there. But each of those is basically focused on a Patreon priority question. So if you're part of that Patreon community, you get to ask that question. You're effectively going to get a 8-minute bespoke video made as a result, right? And it's covered off in the podcast, but it's there as a quick access thing for you. So you'll be able to go on YouTube and go, oh, what was my question? Well, how do I learn faster? And you can type that in, and it will come up. Or what is the another one was how to beat Gellerpox. Well, type it in, away you go. And so we'll try and keep that up. So if you ask one of those patron priority questions, we'll then make it into a segment and have it easily accessible for you, so you can get that in future as well. Because patrons, right, it's really hard to describe how much of a difference it makes, because you don't really get much money at all from ad revenue or anything like that. It's purely that money just purely keeps the subscriptions costs of the podcast software and all that sort of stuff going. But Patreon, like that lets us get new equipment. It lets us get the new models, get stuff painted, all that sort of stuff. So it really is like I cannot express how much we appreciate it, and it's a massive thank you to the patrons out there for their continued support, which we really, really do appreciate. All right, then, Connor, let's press into round 5 and turn back your game.
Round 5, another familiar face. This time, I'm also now playing against Lazarus, who you played before from the Kill Team Mercenarios. Again, apologies, I've probably butchered that, guys. I'm really sorry. My Spanish is not very good. But yeah, his Warp Coven. It's going to be interesting to see. So he's obviously, it felt like he had quite a bespoke team to counter breaches, and it felt like he had quite a bespoke team to counter Legionary. So what he'd gone for this time, in contrast to what he went for against you, Ryan, so he's picked up the heavy gunner with the Reaper cannon. He's picked up all 3 sorcerers. He opted for 2 Zangors this time, and then he's just got the one rubric. In terms of equipment, I think he gave each of the sorcerers arcane robes for that additional. He can turn 1 crit into a normal damage once per game, which actually was significant later on, and it kept his sorcerers alive. And once he'd done that, they've got like healing spells, so they can bring them back up to fighting fitness. So that worked really well. It was a good shout. Another thing that I think you'll really like, he put a high capacity mag on his rubric gunner. Sorry, not the heavy gunner, the normal gunner, which gives it ceaseless. But you combo that with slow and purposeful, which is one of the strats they've got, which is like the breacher rerolls. He's basically turned that into a relentless AP1 bolt gun. It was absolutely disgusting. And then he went for a Gilded Horn, which I think was just because he's got 1 EP left, so why not spend it on a Gilded Horn? I don't think there's anything special there or any hidden strat going on. I lost this game. Spoiler alert, I wanted to reclaim my honor again, but I wasn't up to standard and I lost this game. But this was a really fun game. This was, again, competitive, but there were no gotchas or anything. Like he was like Lazarus, he's such a nice guy. He was so open with all his rules and strategies. He won because he was the better player. And I lost, I think, here because I fundamentally did not understand Warp Coven, and straight out of the gate, I did not respect that Reaper cannon. I hadn't, we sort of like preload some of our stats in our head going in and thinking about, okay, what's the probability of this killing this? It's not very high. Because I've never really played against Warp Coven or Seymour Coven, I just didn't have that to hand in my head. I did not respect that Reaper cannon. And not only did it absolutely disintegrate my heavy bolter, it also disintegrated the Anointed, which I haven't gone into the maths of it, but I couldn't believe how quickly he dispatched 2 models. It was phenomenal stuff.
It's really optimized because it's 6 attacks, hitting on 3s with a Cult Ambush style reroll. But because it's 3 damage, the min damage 3 is really impactful. And the fact that it's 3/4, if he gets a lot of crits, that's useful as well. I'm pretty sure it's AP1. So 6 attacks and AP1 means that it just burns through your defense dice and you get so many extra attacks to go through to where it needs to be. So yeah, really, really, really impactful.
Yeah, he had obviously thought out his roster ahead of time and knew he was going to play, and it worked very well. I did have a few bits where I was like trying to keep pace with him, but just going down 2 models at the start of 10.2, it forced me to be aggressive. And you know how much I hate being aggressive, man. I do hate it.
It must have been so hard for you.
but to gamble. So I had to take my leader out of the back where he was guarding objective, effectively giving a free objective to the Zangors who are flanking around the side, who he'd also quite intelligently thought about positioning, so there was no way for me to charge them or kill any of them. I had to come forward and be aggressive, with his plasma pistol. It did work, and he was in a position then to Overwatch, take out another model, potentially forcing Lazarus to then respond equally aggressive with his sorcerer. But he did a nice. I haven't worked out the stats of this, but he did a psychic attack before then going into combat, and he managed to land 7 damage. And the significance of that is that his crits deal 6, which meant I was then in 1-hit kill range, and he managed to kill the sorcerer. So that was really nice there. And then once I've lost the leader and lost 2 models, it was just a slow downhill descent from there. So the overall score, I think, was 22-15 to Lazarus. I lost one again on Robin Ransack because although the icon picked up at the end, he just had enough models to just finish the job and kill my icon. We had one funny joke actually that I quite liked. So with that Reaper cannon that he's got spitting out 6 dice all the time, and I think he put something through like something absurd like 18 damage through to my anointed, who then gets his feel no pain. We joked, this is turning into like Warhammer 40k with the amount of dice that we're rolling in. But what a fun game, and I've not really played much against the international community, but I got to play Mateus and I got to play Lazarus. It was really fun to see that high level competitive standard and to know, right, okay, no, I've got some serious elevation to give to my game. These guys know how to play Kill Team and play Kill Team well, but what a blast. And he gave me a cool dice at the end, so that's always fun. I've now got a dice to take home with me and think about Kill Team Mercenarios. Again, apologies, I know I've butchered that, but I did try. Yeah, really, really fun game, and that he was good. You got to vote for 2 guys, so I voted for Lazarus again because while being exceptionally competitive, he also kept it lighthearted and fun, which is just like the perfect combo. Hard to play Kill Team, I think.
That's what it's all about, right? At the end of the day, that's what it's all about.
How'd your game 5 go?
So I went against after the fire alarm. I don't know if you remember that bit. I went against Isaac Hunt. So we're up in round 5. Yes. Everyone got out fine. But yeah. So anyway, Isaac was bringing his blooded, and this was a I've played Isaac a few times. I sort of roughly know what his sort of gameplay style is, and I've played blooded quite a bit, so I was sort of ready for what I thought was coming. And I decided to go Seek and Destroy because I was like, well, at the end of the day, in this scenario, he's got 12 models. I've got 12 models. Seek and Destroy seems to make sense. He is going to out-activate me, but I should be able to, work around it and see what I can do. So I actually took the Lads Volley in this one to give me an option of some reliable shooting, which did help out in the end. And I sort of I reaped the benefit because it was open board. We're on Vertigus again. I did some quite cool stuff with my hatch cutter to get some movement routes through that I needed to be able to get. I just played a defensive turn 1 and turn 2. I didn't really overcommit, I don't think, apart from with Blitz. So whenever I did anything dangerous or aggressive, I tried to do it with the maximum amount of reliability that I could, and it seemed to work out quite well for me. So, it was a good game, but it kind of played out the way that I thought it was going to play out because obviously I sort of knew what he was going to have to do with his tac ops and knew roughly what I had to do to play around him. So I tried to make it really hard for him to score eliminate guards or at least choose people that are non-optimal for it. And I tried to position the robot, the cat, in a way in which it would have a very good sight on one of the objectives, so that if he did throw someone out there turn 1, they were going to get shot at. So he tried to force a trade with his plasma. Effectively, no one died, so his thug got reduced to 1 wound. His plasma shot back at my Las Volley, reduced him to 3 wounds. And then I won initiative on turning point 2, and I GA2'd my 2 shotgun armsmen, picked up the thug, put 6 damage onto the butcher, which then meant that, and that was kind of like the opening that I wanted from the previous game into Lazarus, because the butcher now can't charge and kill, right? So he's now waiting out to see what he can do with the butcher. And the thug is gone. I've managed to go up, and it was just we just like a sort of tit for tat attrition game, and I was making sure to try and trade effectively. There was one move which I'm debating whether or not I should have done it or not. Which was my hatch cutter charging and killing his Flenser, and he rolled 2 crits, which then meant that he could put a crit through on death and kill my hatch cutter. And I was debating whether or not it was worth. Cause I could have potentially just gone and killed his leader instead, but I was trying to kill that threat that's a bit closer to my back line. And I was trying to weigh up the maths post game, being like, well, what was the chance of him rolling 2 crits? And I think it was actually statistically quite high. So I think that might have been the one area for improvement in that game. But other than that, it went fairly well for me. I managed to end the game on a win, 22-18. So it was a great game. You know, I've always enjoyed playing him. He plays a good game. He's very efficient with those blooded. So you have to be switched on. You have to, know exactly what's going on during it. But yeah, had a great round 5, and so going into the final round, I was 4-1, which was pretty awesome to be fair. Should we go into round 6 then, Connor?
Round 6. I just want to add there, I actually can't wait to see what YouTube subtitles make of Isaac's name there. When you read that out, we'll have to wait and see
We'll
what pops up. Right, yeah, game 6. Another familiar face. This time I'm playing Serkan Ayan from the London community. He's another solid player. Well, we talked about the tournament you had a couple of weeks ago.
Oh, pretty good Serkan loads, yeah. He's great.
He's a solid player. He knows what he's doing, and he's running breaches like you were. This time we're on ITD playing on secure. This is I've played him before, and this was like our rematch because I also played him with Local Legionary, and I happened to steal a win there. So he's looking to get prove it was just a fluke, and I'm trying to prove it wasn't just a fluke. So we had our own little extra competition on top of the competition we're having here, and as always against Serkan, it was a really fun game. He knows exactly what he's doing. I did a misplay on turn 1. So I pushed my leader into a room, and because of the cat, we looked at the angles, and there was an opportunity for him to use the cat to spot out my leader and then slap him with a plasma gun, which then meant I didn't really want that, because from that range, obviously the Grizzly won't work, and it's just going to throw off turning point 2. So I decided to bait out the Anointed and make him a more opportunistic threat. And I did it with I also couldn't tap. I let another misplay here. I didn't have anyone left to tap the back objective, so it had to be the Anointed. So the Anointed's pretending to be the threat, and he hasn't even got his Feel No Pain from Unleashing the Demon. So the big juicy target there. And what was a recurring theme throughout the game, Serkan's dice favoured me. So he whiffed his dice against there. Turn 2, I think again he tried to blow him up before he got a chance with his Demolition Man. And by the way, like we talk about reliability, he had the attack order in the right place each time. His dice was just shocking. That's just how it goes sometimes, unfortunately. So thank you for your dice, Serkan. That really helped. But I think what also helped me is he also mispositioned on turn 1, which I got to exploit on turn 2. So he left his melter gun within 2 inches of a hatch on the other flank, which I got initiative turn 2, and it meant that I could not only could I move my sorcerer up with a 3-inch -1 defense bubble from Malignant Aura and cast a disgusting Into the Dark lethal 5+ fireball into 2 guys, one of them being the Axe Jack, who hasn't turned on his Feel No Pain yet. I could then also hatchway fight the Melter Gun, and I managed to take out the Axe Jack and the Melter Gun turn 1 and severely wind some other poor guy, and the Axe Jack was eliminate guard's target. I think just that combo at the start, we talk about snowballing, it was hard for him to then catch up, especially when the dice just weren't favouring him. So finished that game 22-16. I lost 1 point on Tac Ops again to Robin Ransack. I think I was too brazen. I did it turn 3. I normally always wait turn 4, but I did it turn 3. Allowed him the opportunity to deny me a point, and he took it with his Power Sword leader. yeah, I didn't roll particularly well with my chainsword, but again, why did I even give him the opportunity to deny me it? I could have done it on turn 4 and given him zero opportunity to do it. So that's something to think about there. But again, absolutely great guy, lovely game. Really enjoyed that game, and it was a nice end. Well, it's not quite at the end because we still got the tournaments as the trophy ceremony at the end. But in terms of matches, it's a really fun way to finish up.
I guess what helped as well is that you and I did practice games, right? And I was running my breaches and you were running legionary.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
all
I'm
of our
well
practice
versed.
games
Yeah,
were breaches versus legionary, not into the dark. So
yes,
I think you probably were more prepared for that matchup specifically than any
yes,
other in the game. So that was probably quite a good thing. So my final game was against Vet Guard, and I was playing against Charles, who you'll probably know from the Can You Roll the Crit channel as the sort of like regular opponent to
yeah,
John.
yeah.
And it was it was a great game. So first thing I say about this game was it was so close. So like there was 1 point in it, and it was weird because so I ran Seek and Destroy. He ran obviously locked into security, so we had to run security. And we were going back and forth. And what this game really sort of like showed me was the bounce back capability that Vet Guard have, or just pure weight of numbers, right? So I managed to we sort of set up and he into the breached quite aggressively forward with his sniper spotter combo in the hope to try and open up a door a hatchway turn 1 and get an early kill. So I, in response, had my demo guy move up and throw a stun grenade through the hatchway and stun the sniper, the spotter, and a whole bunch of other people. Now, obviously, they need 2 APL to get the spotter to do what he needs to do. So immediately, they're now not getting the shots off that they wanted to. So I was pretty happy with that. And then that set me up ready for Turning Point 2, where I got the initiative, did a blitz move, went into the room and killed 4 people with a demo charge. That's pretty violent, but when you're auto retaining a crit and a hit and you've got close assault on, like it's AP1 against someone with a 5-up save. I dread to think what the percentage is, but it's not good that they're not going to live, right? And so evaporated 4 guardsmen. Hatch Cutter came through, killed another guardsman with a grenade, and so my first activation of Turning Point 2 killed 5 guys, and it was odd because at that point I sort of thought the game was sealed. Right, I was like, "There's no way that you can possibly come back from this because I've taken one of your objectives, I've killed a quarter of your team, but they've obviously still got 9 models left, so
That's
like."
nuts, isn't it?
Yeah, it's absolutely wild. In fact, no, I killed a grenade launch as well with on turn 1, so he actually had 8 models left. But anyway, he took one of the objectives on the opposite side of the table because I didn't have many people there, and we did sort of like back and forth, and he managed to score his tack ups quite reliably. And I made a misplay on turn 2, so one of the niche things, my cat could have driven onto to one of my home objectives. Because Vet Guard have the ploy, which is if you control more objectives than your opponent, you get a VP. Now, simply having it like under your control from secure doesn't count. So I had secured objectives, but I moved guys off, which then wasn't actually controlled by my team. So I effectively gave him TVP, 1 on turn 1 and 1 on turn 2. And it was one of those things where I was just like, oh, I'll just pass on my cat, nothing for him to do. And had I actually just moved him onto an objective when he was doing nothing, it would have saved me a VP, which would have been really significant. Anyway, so went through, but the attrition was eventually starting to cost him. And it got to the point where I knew that on the last turn, all I had to do was keep my leader alive who had done the Robin Ransack, and there was no way for him to get his 4 APL to the hatchway to get secure hatchway, and therefore he was going to drop a point. And we had been 3-3 throughout. So I looked at the board state and I was like, oh, right, okay. All I have to do now is just keep this guy alive, score my 3 points on primaries. That's it. It's a win because whatever Charles does now, he can't max secondaries. So that was a super close game, 20 to 19 for the breaches to win, maxing secondaries and getting 3 points apiece each on primaries. But yeah, it was again just like wild to think how these teams can just keep going even after so many casualties. And that rounded it to a close, right? That was the full 6 games. And there's a few things that I kind of want to talk about outwits of that, because I think it's worthwhile. So let's talk about should we talk about the top 5 or top 8, I guess, because I think it's worth talking about the mixture of factions. I think it's really cool. So you dipped out just outside of the top 8, right? So let's do top 10, because actually the 10th place is really interesting as well. So 10th place is Guy Barton with his Star Striders.
Yep.
And obviously Guy's part of the old ones. He's a very, very good player. He went 4-2 and had a great tournament. And then you were just slightly above him with Legionary, and then above you was Lazarus with his Warp Coven. He also went 4-2. Above that was Dan Barton with his Navy Breaches going 4-2. Then Rob Smith. I don't know if you've met Rob, Connor. He's part of like the Lincoln crew who I play with quite regularly, but he also comes down to Notts Kill Team quite a lot. Anyway, he's a great guy. He was running Orc Commandos, did a really good performance. Went 4 wins, 1 draw, 1 loss. So it's a really good work there from Rob. And then I was up in 5th place on my 5-1. Matthias, who you've already talked about, with the Inquisitorial Agents, 5-1, repping Drop Zone from Poland. I'm pretty sure he's number 1 in the Polish community, so really awesome to see. Then Bart from the London community, repping the old ones again, 5-1 with Orc Commandos. Up to Star Striders with Mikkel from London Wargaming Group, again 5-1, and then 6-0 undefeated was Ace running Phobos Strike Team. And the thing I kind of want to talk about here is the variety that we've got. So in that top 10, you've got 2 Breaches, you've got 2 Star Striders, you've got 2 Commandos, a Phobos, an Inquisitorial Agents, a Warp Coven, and a Legionary. So like that's a pretty good split, and if you go down to like the top 15, whatever, you'll see that there's a whole bunch of other factions as well. You got Void Dancer Treat with Jason, run by the Notts Kill Team, coming in. You got Vet Guard Charles, who I talked about previously, and you got Kazakin as well. So I think the meta's in a really great place, because that to me shows a good amount of healthy variety. And I think that's just epic to see. Like as a community,
100%.
We've got a whole different bunch of factions at the top. No one would have predicted Phobos winning, right? Like no one would have said that was going to be the case.
Who do you reckon people at home? Well, I certainly had. They've written off Phobos, so you don't pick that side. And then Ace goes, "Well, no, you absolutely can win with that. Watch this," and he just smashes it 6-0.
Really, really good to see. And like, so and don't get me wrong, like he's an incredible pilot, a really good player, like best player in the world. So we're not surprised to see it, but equally, like wow, like it just shows what the meta can do. So I don't think he had like an easy ride by any account. He played against Serkan, he played against Remy, who's the French guy running Legionaries. So really good player from obviously from France. Charles Shepard, who I talked about with his Vet Guard from London community. Dan Barton, who's British UK number 1, so a really good player. And then against Matthias, Polish number 1. So basically, he faced off against the best opponents that he could have done with a team that people weren't expecting, and did really, really well. So epic to see. I think we'll have to ask if we can get him on the podcast at some point to talk about that, because I think there's a whole bunch we can learn from how he runs Phobos. So really awesome to see. Now, you would think that that's where the event would end, right? And the big finale would be me talking about how Phobos won the event. And that is impressive, right? And I'm not going to take away from going 6-0 with Phobos. But what I thought was actually, in my opinion, one of the coolest things that Games Workshop has done, and one of the coolest parts of the community anyway was obviously Ace got awarded his golden ticket to go to America and Atlanta for the World Championships, but actually a second golden ticket was awarded. And everyone's going, what? Second gold ticket? Did it go second place, third place? No, it didn't. The second golden ticket went to the overall number one player. And you're thinking, well, that's just whoever won the race out of matches. Nope. So the way they calculated the overall number one player was a combination of scores. It was your placement on the day. So you got points for every win and points for every draw that you did, right? Combined with the points that people voted for you as the best player and most sporting. So if you got voted for most sporting, you got more points. And combined with people who voted for your team as the best painter that they played against. So if you're good at the game, you're a good sportsman, and you paint well and you embrace basically every element of the hobby, then you're rewarded. And in my opinion, I've known the winner for a little while now, and I don't think it could have gone to anyone more appropriate of the award, in my opinion. And we're going to have to get him on to talk about it hopefully soon, because it went to Chris from the Knots Kill Team group. And like he ticks every single one of those boxes, right? So he brought his blooded. They're this kit bash blooded. I've talked about them before. They won the best painted at the Knots Kill Team tournament, and he brought them, and they looked absolutely incredible. I think he'd even done a few extra models and miniatures. So like every single one just on point from the kit bash and all that sort of stuff. They're amazing models to look at. And Chris is just the nicest guy to play against. You have so much fun when you play against him, and he's still like really good at the game. So like you're playing these games and you're having amazing fun, but it's not like he's giving away just VP or anything like that. It's like, no, like he came 21st with 3 wins, a draw, and 2 losses. So he's top third of the players, narrowly missing out on a placement, whatever, but absolutely nailing it in every other part of the game. And for me, like the message that sends from Games Workshop is so good. It's like, hey, we don't just want you to be good at the game, because that is part of it, right? Like they're saying we do, like a third of the score that you can get as an individual was predicated on how well you placed, but the main score came from how well you interact with people and how good your models look on the table, and how much you embrace the whole element of the sport. And that's what he got. And I don't think we could have got a better person to go. So he's going to go to Atlanta, hopefully, if he can get time off work, whatever. It's so cool to see, because, and I am biased, but the Knots Kill Team group is just phenomenal. They're like an amazing bunch of humans. They paint so well. They hobby so well with their kit bashes, all that sort of stuff. They're great fun to play against, and they're getting more and more competitive and better and better at the game every week. So for me, I think it's absolutely epic that the Games Workshop recognize that, and it sends that message to the community. It's like, we don't want you people who just die hard, win at all costs. That's not what it's about. We want people who actually enjoy the game, want their opponents to have a good game, and we're going to reward that. And I loved it. So, I was absolutely buzzing to see that award go out. And for me, it's such a positive message. So, that rounded off the perfect tournament. And like, I'm pretty sure Knots Kill Team picked up all the best painted awards. Like
they took 6 out of 11 of the trophies.
6 out of 11, yeah, something ridiculous. That they took so many. Because they also got 2 of the, like, in this tournament, they got the first and second place for like these players, whatever it was. And so I know Jason, he's like been corralling this group from I think just himself and Wayne initially into this massive group is absolutely buzzing, because that is exactly the message you want from your group. It's like, hey, here's a group of people who are fun to play against, paint really well, hobby really well, pretty good at the game. This is it. It's like this. What more could you possibly want from a group? So if you're in the Nottingham region, or I travel about an hour to get there, I think it's worth it. They play every Thursday and Friday. You can get 2 games in. Sanctuary Gaming Centre is where it is at in Sutton and Ashfield. Reach out, like it is a phenomenal group. You'll have an amazing time. I think it's well worth the travel personally. And if you see that they have a tournament running up, and they do have one, I want to say it's December the 16th or something. Make yourself available for it because you're going to have a lot of fun. I'm absolutely buzzing that Chris got recognised in that way.
I just want to reflect a minute on what we said last week in our Warhammer preparation episode. I think we said at one point the Spanish keep coming over and winning all of our trophies, and we didn't get to play Ace, but we both played Lazarus and got smashed by that. And obviously, Ace had a brilliant game, brilliant tournament too. But we also said the Knots are just a brilliant bunch of lads who are so good at hobby, and just they play at a competitive standard and are just great fun. And they picked up all of the painting awards, including judges best painted, and then obviously they've then picked up best all rounder as well. And I think there's another one they picked up too. So
I think that was Johnny's exaction squad that got the judge's choice.
Yeah.
And so I had I don't know, I don't know how you describe it. So he'd painted the Into the Dark wall, right? And there was a little screen, and there was it showed like a planet, like a spaceship flying towards it, whatever. And I was like, oh, that's like, how did you find a sticker that's exactly the right size to fit on that screen? And he's like, oh no, I just painted it. And I'm like, what?
Just paint it, right?
It's like, oh my god, but that's a little planet. like you made, how have you done that? So yeah, like the skill level is absolutely phenomenal, and they're just so good. Like, George, I played the other day with his Hand of the Archon. He went 4-2, beating some pretty big names in the community. Jason obviously going 4-2 with his Void Dancer troop. And I think Rob Smith is probably, I don't know if he classed himself as part of the group or not, but he plays there quite a bit. Up there in 6th, so they're not like they're repping the community in every element of it, right? So Jason's up there, just narrowly missing out on a top 8 finish, top 10 finish, whatever. And then there's a whole bunch of these guys that are just in there, but they're just, every part of it is just so good. So what a phenomenal end to the tournament, and thank you so much to GW for making that happen. I don't know what really to say to the event staff, other than a massive thank you for just making that such an epic tournament for everyone involved, because I don't think anyone is sad having left. Even I think Phil, who we spoke to, I think he lost every game, didn't he, or something? But he said he enjoyed himself. So
he wouldn't know, because he had a big smile on his face. So he had a good time.
Well, there's also so Simon, who has recently started coming to the Knots group, very, very recently, because I think he was originally from Lincoln as well. He went, I want to say it was 1-5, so won one game but lost 5, because he decided to take Inquisitorial Agents for the first time, right? So he's effectively learning a brand new team, and has chosen the hardest team to learn, but great time to do it, right? 6 games in a row, away you go.
Why not? Yeah.
Get some games on the belt and learn the hard way. And but he sort of said, didn't win much, but had a fantastic time. And I think for me, that's absolutely epic. People are doing that. They're going away. And it's really about what the hobby's about, right? It doesn't really matter where you end up, so long as you have a lot of fun along the way. So. And that's what we did, and that's what Games Workshop made happen, and massively appreciative.
The event staff crushed it, and not only did they crush it, they then went above and beyond, because, am I right in thinking they then collated all the feedback about the map packs and have passed that on, so you can now look into that and try and improve version 3. That's awesome, isn't it? Thanks for that.
Yeah, so they sent me. They reached out and sent me an email, and I assume the first one might have been you, Connor, because so they sent me the various feedback just to try and show you that what the community thought. So the first one was, I have a biased opinion. I don't know if that was it's like, can't talk about like how you enjoyed it. But then the next one was, very fun, challenging maps. Turning Point Tactics knocked it out of the park. I love the map pack format. Great that you adopted TPT map pack. Turning Point Tactics map pack is the best out there. It was so much better with the TPT map packs, tape objectives, and the terrain set out in a really competitive way. TPT did a really good job of putting the maps together. The use of battle-tested maps from TPT was fantastic and helped everyone play on a high-level playing field. TPT terrain layouts were fair, although a little asymmetry wouldn't go amiss from time to time. So I think people want to see maybe a little bit more asymmetry in some of the maps. And then the final one, the map pack worked beautifully. None of my games felt unfair. So, it's just incredible. And again, from the community point of view, I think the event staff is absolutely crushing it. They're doing exactly what they need to do. They're engaging with the community. They're getting people excited about it. They're rewarding people for the right type of play. And they're, it's like Vanguard Tactics. Their sort of motto is like, be a great opponent. And I think that's kind of like the ethos that they want to have, right? It's like at every game, you want to have a great opponent. He's going to challenge you, but they're going to be fair. They're going to be fun, and you're going to leave the table laughing. And that's what I had. And, even in my toughest game against Lazarus, I still had great fun, and learn from it. And that's the main thing. I think that's probably going to bring us to the end of the episode, Connor, unless you think there's anything else that you want to touch on before we sign off.
No, just, thanks again to the event staff for hosting that. That was fantastic, and can't wait for the next one.
Absolutely. And, if you were at Warhammer World and you want to let us know how you got on, and maybe you played one of us, you want to share your thoughts, chuck them in the comment section, or maybe you didn't play us, chuck in the comment section and explain how you got on. Positive or negative feedback, we would love to hear it, I'm sure, and we can always pass it on to the Warhammer World event staff. Or potentially, if you're just looking to go to one of these events in the future and you want to ask us some questions about it, far away in that comment section as well, because we want to try and spread the love. We want to try and get more people to these events, because they had 128 tickets available, and it would have been so good to have sold it, because that would have been the event. If there was 128 people there,
could you imagine?
Oh, it would have been buzzing, and that's the thing. So please, let's support the event staff. They are supporting us. Let's next time that they put up one of those events that's for 128 tickets, let's sell it out on the day. That'd be so epic to see. Okay, that's going to bring us into this episode. So hopefully you did find something new or useful whilst listening. And if you did, throwing us a like would be greatly appreciated. If you want to miss out if you don't want to miss out on any of our episodes, that's easy to say, isn't it? I almost did an affiliate there. Affiliate. If you don't want to miss any of our episodes, make sure you hit that subscribe button so you get a notification as soon as the next one drops. You have to hit the little bell as well to make sure you actually get a notification. That really is a great way to help a small channel like ours, as well as watching all the way through to the end like you guys have right now, which is absolutely awesome. So thank you so much. And if you can't wait and you do want early access, we do have a Patreon where you get exclusive access to all of our content ahead of time, as well as those Patreon priority questions and spoke videos we talked about earlier. As always, we'd love to hear your thoughts and feedback, so make sure you drop us a comment below and we'll get right to you. Thank you so much for listening. I'm your host, Ryan. This has been Turning Point Tactics, and we'll see you next week.
See you next week.